Are you a feminist?
No, I've never been one.
What is a feminist?
Feminist is someone that fights for women's rights, equality, and basically for women.
And you are not that.
I am not that. And that's because I don't see it surface level. So if you ask a girl on TikTok what's a feminist, she'll tell you what I told you. But me, I know that it's deeper than that. So that's why I'm like, don't identify with it. And also because of the way they go about the whole, this is how we're for women, the way that you're going about it, it's already a zero for me. So the title is not enough. Just because you said you're for women and you're fighting for the equality rights of women is not enough for me to take it on. What makes me take it on is how you go about that, trying to bring equality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What is the deeper understanding of you and feminism and why you don't support it?
Okay, so in the beginning, I was always very sketchy about feminism because I was like, okay, I hear what they're saying, like, okay, voting, what, men didn't allow us, what. And
Damn,
I was like,
what? Hey, this is an agent, Mos. Yes.
And I was like, okay, I see where you guys are coming from. But yeah, there was still not enough for me to be like, I'm taking on that because I saw in the way that they went about it. So when I did research on feminism, because I was like, okay, I'm very unsettled with this feminism thing. Let me get deep into it. Let me not just be satisfied with we are equals for women, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So when I deep dived into it, I got to ask questions about like, okay, so the history says that women were not allowed to vote. Why was that? Like I said, if you go to Google and you're like, why were women not allowed to vote? It's going to say they said
they were stupid.
And they're very emotional, so no. But if you go deeper and you go into the books, you will actually learn that, for example, the reason why women were not allowed to vote is because men were the heads of the house. So they voted on behalf of their households.
Almost like voting on behalf of your kids. It's
Basically,
the same reason kids can't vote.
You see? So women had very much influence in what their husbands voted for. So it was just like, out of all the families, one man.
To represent, almost like our politicians now.
Yes.
It's like, why don't you sit in parliament? Is it because we're stupid? No, it's because we have representatives.
Yes, we've got one person representing us and what we're believing in, etc. The other reason was that women were more into, like, they were voting more municipal and local thing, yes, because they were in charge of the schools, the hospitals, the shops and whatnot, because women were more nurturers and whatnot. Those are the roles that they played. Yeah. So anything with children, education, teaching, they were there. So they had the power there. Yeah. Government at that time was force. Force meaning war, anything that had to do with violence. And because women are not, you're not going to war, you're not going to fight for the country. So why must you vote? Sure. Do you understand? So it was like you still have influence in other areas, just not this one, because it's like saying someone in the receptionist must have a say in the finance department in a company. Why? You're not even here. Like, you're not even participating in the things that
why must the receptionist be a woman? But please continue.
Sorry, I'm just making an example.
Sure. No, I hear exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so even if it was a man, let's say whoever in that department, you can't have a say in finance because you don't know anything about finance. You're not in that department, you see. Another reason that I saw that was very important is that there was a lot of women that were against women voting because they saw it as if women start voting, then it's going to progress and more things and more and more and more, which is going to lead to things like the women were saying at that time that if we make men and women equal sexes, and I say sexes specifically because body, I'm talking about biology. If we're saying you and me are equal, it means that chivalry will die. What is chivalry? Politeness towards women, men being polite to women and say, okay, she's a woman, she can't pick up this heavy thing. I need to help her. Because now I'm saying me and you are the same thing, it means that you don't need to help me.
Yeah,
exactly. So those are the things that contributed to gender-based violence because men don't
That contributed to?
Things like gender-based violence.
Damn. Did we just go there?
Yes.
No, please continue.
They were scared that things will, because if there's no chivalry, if there's no politeness towards women, it means that it's easy for you to be violent to a woman because you no longer see her as this weak, small, tiny thing that you need to protect, because at those times it was very mandatory that men needed to protect women, etc., etc. So that's why women of those times didn't want that. So I believe that we are equal, but we're just not equal in the same way. You have your strengths, I have my weaknesses, I have my strengths, you have your weaknesses. Do you understand? So we're equal, as in we're equally as important, but we're just not going to say the equality is not going to look the same. It's just not going to look the same, and that is okay, you see. So those are the reasons that they gave. And I was like, these things, they make sense. And even the 72 years, it took 72 years for them to actually accept women into voting. And it also goes back to race again. When they were allowed to vote, it was only white women.
Sure.
Black women were not there. If it was feminism and about women, why wasn't it just all women? And also at that time, black men were not allowed to vote because they were slaves. Do you understand? So they knew that, okay, if we say women must vote, we must also go and fetch the black man there and say that he's allowed to vote as well. And also another reason was that people that own properties were the ones that voted. Men were the ones that own properties. They're the head of the house. They're the ones that pay the bills. You understand? So things like that, you don't own property, that's why you don't vote. You see things like that. So it was like, there's a lot of things that made sense. And I read those books and I watched a lot of documentaries, yes, of women talking about this feminism thing, and that there was even a time that they had to overrule, because a lot of women were so against this thing. They had to overrule it because the women were like, these ones, they're too comfortable. They're in their houses, enjoying their husbands, doing everything. They're taking care of kids. We need to overrule them. And I could go deeper into things like why they wanted women to come and work as well. And that's an elite thing. The elitists of those times, they needed more people to work because men were dying in wars, things like that. But I just went deep into it and I realized that that's why we're so unhappy today. That's why there's a lot of women who are like, I want to be a stay-at-home wife. And that's because we were never necessarily supposed to be doing this. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that we get to work, but originally we were never supposed to be living like this. And that's why a lot of women are trying to go back in time and be like, I want to be a stay-at-home girlfriend.
Yeah.
Now you're making things up.
Girlfriend allowance.
Girlfriend allowance, which was something that your husband would have done for you because he would have came home, here's the money, I come from working. Now you have to make things up because you wish that you would go to a time where you didn't need to do this thing. Why? Because naturally you're not necessarily supposed to be doing these things.
We have to go back, man. Traumatized. You're saying you believe the reason we have an increase, and I fucking hate this term gender-based violence so much, because it's actually violence against women. And now it's being branded as gender-based, which it's not. And I hate the fact that they changed it. Just call it what it is and don't pretend like
you're including everyone.
Don't pretend like you're including men. Don't pretend like you're including children.
Yeah.
And also, in not pretending, also don't... what was my other point? Also, don't say it's gender-based.
Yeah.
The idea that a man is like, hey, shy, but since you're a man, I won't, is stupid. Anyways, you're arguing that you believe the reason why violence against women, or what some would call domestic violence, has increased is specifically because of equality. Specifically because some men are like, well, since you're ntanga, I can obviously mur you. It's not like you're a child. It's not like you're my inferior. It's not like I need to protect you. And then
I'm not saying that that's the specific reason, but I'm saying that is one of the reasons.
Contributing factors.
Yeah, it's a contributing factor. Because technically, if we're equal, if you slap me, I'm supposed to slap you back.
Sure.
If me and you have the same power and we're equal in the way that we're built, if you slap me, I don't need to go and run and say, oh, this man is slapping me. I need to slap you back because we're equal. Do you understand? So to show that it's impractical for you to say that we are equal in that sense, even in the physical type, it shows in the fact that women are not firefighters like that. If you had to be a burning building, they're not going to call women and say, oh, women, please come. Do you understand? In dangerous situations down at the mines, they're not going to call women. So you saying that we are equal, whatever men are doing, we must also do them, then it means if a man slaps you, you must slap him back.